Hello, everyone, and welcome back. And as promised, we have our live interview with Charles Hache. So sorry before I said it wrong, but that's okay. He's here. He's so excited to talk with us. So let's start with our first question. Can you introduce yourself as your role? Can you introduce yourself? Tell the people a little bit about who you are and your role as a Unity developer, and what encouraged you to use your talents for the SGC.
Sure, absolutely. So, as you said, my name is Charles Hache. I am a Unity developer. I teach Unity at the high
Mm-hmm.
school level, the university level. I also do tech mentoring for people who are working in the games industry, which is absolutely wonderful. Um, that's kind of my biggest passion is coming alongside people and helping them to find out the thing that's going to motivate and drive them and help them to success. And so that's been absolutely wonderful for me working from the high school level all
Mm-hmm.
the way up through. I absolutely love it. And so it kind of is a natural fit with this project that you guys are working on
Mm-hmm.
as well, because I was reached out to and said, hey, these are some things that we're running
Yeah.
into, some issues that we run into, as we've heard.
Mm-hmm.
Game development is not
Exactly.
just
It is
straightforward.
not
There's some
easy.
problems that pop up all over the place. And the only way that you can figure out how to progress forward is by doing it. And
Yeah.
then sometimes by getting a little assistance, is having somebody who's walked the road before with you,
Mm-hmm.
continue down that road and continue to give you support and
Yeah.
not just solve it for you, but help you to recognize what's gone wrong and then help you to develop solutions that you can use
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Yeah, as mentioned before, the SGC is a project made by students for students, and we have like dedicated teams of developers like Jacob, who we just met, who gave us a solid foundation of what Unity was. And they use cybersecurity professionals like Charles over here who kind of help them direct them when there's issues or problems, as we're learning at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I think it's super important that we have educators like Charles in development because we are living in a increasingly digital world, and as it gets more digital, there is a lot more things that younger people in middle school and high school are going to have, or challenges they're going to have to face.
Right.
Is there anything that you like comes to mind where you're like challenges that?
I would say the difference between when I went to high school
Mhm.
and where we're at today is that everybody has a cell phone now.
Exactly.
And it's not just a cell phone that we use to text
Hmm.
message or phone call. We're using it as if it's our computer, and they are just as powerful as computers. But it also means that they're just as vulnerable as a
Exactly.
computer.
Like, I'm certainly guilty of this. I don't carry around my credit card anywhere because I have Apple Pay. So it's like I don't have, I'm just using that all the time, which I'm sure there's a lot of issues with that. So I don't know. Maybe I should start carrying it around more. But moving on, in my files about you, Charles, I saw that you have a nickname,
I do have a nickname.
and that nickname is Oz.
It is Oz.
So what's the deal with that?
Right. So this is fun little middle school history for
Oh my
us.
goodness.
This is wonderful. So I was my father was in the military and we moved around a lot
Okay.
and just gives you a great opportunity to reinvent yourself each time. And I was like, well, this year I'm gonna go as Oz.
Okay.
Started up fresh, started into a new
Oh
sort of
my
school
goodness.
district, and my little deep history now. My parents were actually splitting up, and I was
Mm-hmm.
with my mom at the time, and so I kind of picked up that as a personal identity for myself. And my teachers recognized that that was something that was helping me to succeed.
Okay.
And so instead of it being a pushback, they adopted it and they
Oh
allowed me to kind of
man,
make that my persona. And it really helped.
that's
And
awesome.
then, funny enough, when I transitioned into adulthood, I kind of moved away from it. Yeah, there you go.
Charles Oz. There we go.
As I transitioned to adulthood, I was like, well, I'll go by Charles now, I guess.
Yeah.
But it followed me. And so as much as I tried to push that, it's always been there. So in my developer communities, it's always Oz. In my professional communities, it kind of flip-flops back and forth between being Charles and Oz. So it depends on who I'm talking to, but I'll answer to all those.
Yeah. No, it was so funny actually. Fun fact, when I was writing the questions for Charles slash Oz, I actually went up to our director and I was like, hey, so like Oz. Is he like the Wizard of Oz? Like he's the Wizard of Cybersecurity. They're like, no, this is his nickname. And I was like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna ask about that. I was like,
Yeah.
I want to know. That's
Yeah.
so interesting.
Not the Wizard of Oz,
Not the
although
Wizard of
that has
Oz.
been a fun little nickname that people have picked up on as well. They've said the Wizard of Oz.
Ah man.
Yeah.
So moving on. to our other questions. What are the advantages of using Unity for a game like the SGC, especially one that's both educational and competitive?
I would say from a developer side of things, when developing and considering developing a game like this, Unity makes a lot of sense for the fact that we want to be able to deploy it onto as many light platforms as we possibly can.
Right.
So for instance, it runs inside of Google Chrome, which is an exclusive feature to Unity. It's just a
Okay.
nice feature that Unity does support as one of
Didn't
their
know that.
platforms. And then turning around really quickly and being able to do very fast development cycles. So there's a problem and we need to make a change. So how long does it take for you to be able to make that correction and then redeploy it out? And honestly, doesn't take that long at all if
Really?
you're doing it with Unity.
Okay.
There are other platforms that are out there that are just as wonderful and just as powerful that do awesome things in different spaces.
Yeah.
But when you consider the use case, that's where I like to say if you need to put a screw into a piece of wood or something like that, there's lots of tools you can use.
Exactly.
You can use a hammer.
Yeah, you
You
can.
can.
Is it, do you want to?
Right. So you can use a hammer. You can use a hand screw,
Right.
like a screwdriver, if I can figure the word,
Yeah,
or you
don't
can use
worry
a power
about it.
drill. And
Oh,
so it
power
depends,
drills.
right?
Yeah.
So if you want to get it in really as fast as you possibly can, you can use a hammer. If you need to be very gentle and very precise, you can use a hand screwdriver. And if you need it to be kind of a mixture of the two, then you would use a power drill. Yeah, absolutely. And so what's the situation? Any of those can work. What would work for your best situation? So I think in
Yeah.
this case, because you want those quick development cycles, you want to deploy to you want to deploy your Unity project to WebGL, and you want to be able to have a language that is universally adopted and really easy to work with. And I think C# is a really good programming language for that. You have less of the memory management issues.
Right.
As compared to C++ or some other languages, more extensible than languages like Java or JavaScript. So I think it kind of fits that nice balance.
Yeah, I actually at Cal Poly, I'm not involved in much cybersecurity stuff. I'm actually a communication major.
Oh, wonderful.
So when I joined the SGC team, I learned so much about cybersecurity, and I thought it was so cool because I would speak to the Unity students, and I would, like as stated before, I was with Jacob. I would look at their code and I'd be like, I have no idea what's going on. And they're like, oh, well, actually, it's really simple. And I'm just staring at it. It seems very, very complicated. So we thank you so much for helping us with that to create our wonderful challenge here today. What
Absolutely. Thank you
kind
for having me.
of collaboration happens between Unity developers, artists, writers, and cybersecurity experts during game development?
So this is an interesting question because
Really?
it comes down to what is your use case. So in this
Okay.
case, this one is very specific. We are looking to see why does the Space Grand Challenge need to have cybersecurity? And the answer to that question is that's the focus.
Yeah.
We want students to be able to learn about cybersecurity in a as realistic environment as we can,
Yes.
with a little bit of dramatization, of course.
Yeah.
So what we as developers would look for, or more specifically game designers would be looking for, is what are the things that cybersecurity experts would have on a day-to-day, or these white hat or black hat
Yeah.
hackers, what would they do and what would they experience
Yeah.
day
What
to
would
day?
their aim be? What's their angle?
Right.
Exactly.
And so when we try to build scenarios that kind of match those as much as possible, we want it to look like what they would experience.
Exactly.
And then also kind of bridge that gap between what their day in their life would look like and what is fun to experience.
Yeah.
And so we knit those things together. So in this case, it's a bit of a twofold piece where you're able to see not just the real life experiences that they would have, but then making sure that it's technically accurate as much as possible.
Yeah, and I think that's a wonderful thing about the Space Grand Challenge, the fact that we're able to introduce middle school and high school students to real world cyber scenarios and kind of get them engaged in a way where they're able to defend their own little virtual world, really. I mean,
Yeah.
we read through the story, which was really, really awesome. And I know I was joking around with our Discord friend Lex all the way over there, but a 0-day exploit, I think that's pretty realistic when it comes to those hacker
Very
sites,
common.
man. And you're open to all sorts of dangerous malware during that time. So it's up to our students to kind of handle that mission pretty well. Were there any visual or interactive elements you designed in Unity that you're especially proud of?
For this
Mm-hmm.
project, I did a little bit of assistance with some of the rooms that I call the legacy rooms,
Okay.
which were the older rooms. And visually, no, but
Okay.
technologically, I am a systems designer, so
Okay.
I enjoy finding ways to make things work together. And
Okay.
so I was able to take a look at, for instance, the flag project, which
Mm-hmm.
is how you're able to determine whether or not you've successfully completed a mission.
Right.
That project to me, instead of being scattered out through each one of those individual sections and
Right.
nodules and stuff like that. I made it so that it was more of a combined unit. So it's
Okay.
still this one all by itself and this one all by itself, but
Okay.
gave a central location for our future developers to go back in and make
Man.
some significant changes or some quick changes. So instead of finding where that flag exists inside of the Unity editor, they're
Right.
able to go to a single location, update the flags for all of them, and then just be able to, as long as there's no other problems with it, just recompile and send it back up.
Wow. That sounds like a lot.
It's it it's not tremendous
Okay.
as far as the scale and scope of work. I was able to use a couple of different techniques, such as a decorator
All
pattern.
right.
So a
Okay.
decorator pattern's like you and me, we're separate. We
Okay.
we do different things.
Right.
But if we put on a Grand Space Challenge hat,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of the best way that it's described,
Okay.
both of us are connected in this similar way. And
Huh.
so even though we continue to do different things differently, there are certain pieces that connect us, and that's what that decorator class does,
That's
is it
so
leaves
cool.
everything exactly the way that it is and just allows it to adopt new programs that are similar.
That is so neat. I mean, when I think about like kind of what the Unity developers do and what you do, seems like a lot of trial and
It
error.
can be.
Um, have like what's the this is like kind of an off-topic question, but what's like the hardest thing for you when it comes to developing?
I would say the thing that I've become very proficient at, which most people are not proficient at, is learning to adopt new code.
Okay.
Especially when somebody else has created it, you've got to learn what did they do? Why did they do it? What
Hmm.
are the different connections that they have? What sort of language did they use? Not just C sharp, but what sort of language are they using to describe the variables or the
Okay.
functions? And then kind of getting a sense of who they are as an individual helps me to understand, okay, if this is supposed to be connected here and it's not, finding out why that connection is
That
disconnected.
is so interesting. So it's like every cybersecurity kind of like coder or Unity developer has their own language
Yeah.
and the way that they kind of design their rooms.
Yep.
That is
And
so
not just
cool.
individually. So most companies will have a standard and they'll say, this is the way we want you to do things. We'll want you to use like lowercase or camel case
Okay.
or a Hungarian style or something like that.
That sounds
And so they have these design style sheets that they want you to follow. And so that's great. But then
okay.
the individuals will actually create. So, for instance, one of the things that I do for my students is I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell them when they're doing Boolean statements, which are true and false statements,
Okay.
I'll
See.
tell them to make it so that it is as if it was a question that you could answer. So instead of saying jump, you'll say can jump or is jump,
Okay.
which would say like can you jump?
Mm-hmm.
So can yes or no, or is you either are or you're
Or you're
not
not.
jumping,
Right.
right? And so or number of cans lets you know
Huh.
that this is a number, whether it's a float or an integer or something like that. So it's one of the easy things that you can learn to do early on is to give yourself a hand and let yourself know what they are, because later on you're going to get super frustrated and try and remember what those things were. And giving yourself a hint helps a lot with that.
Man, that is so interesting. Our next question is what trends or new Unity features are you excited about right now in the game development world?
Personally, while I'm not absolutely wonderful with art, even though I do have a
Mm-hmm.
degree in kind of the art space, is the animations.
Really?
Unity has had a animation suite that they've used.
Okay.
I forget exactly what it's called, but anyways, it allows you to do regular sets of animations, predominantly with 2D, but you can also do it with 3D. And
Huh.
the 3D fun stuff was in a module called Timeline, and that was really
Timeline.
awesome. And now they're moving it so that way you should be able to, and I could have this wrong, so hopefully I don't have this wrong.
Okay.
Hopefully this is why I'm excited about it.
Okay.
They will be allowing you to import things like your animations that come with FBX files, which are
Right.
files that you would export
Okay.
from 3ds Max or Maya or something like that, that include the animations and should be able to edit those.
That's so cool. Oh my
The Yeah,
goodness.
I'm really excited
Whoa.
about that.
Yeah, that sounds really awesome. Um, Last question. What advice would you give to students trying to get into cybersecurity?
Oh, fail fast.
Really?
Fail fast, fail
Wow.
often, and fail forward.
Oh,
100%. Understand that failure is not like when you're taking a test, and if you unfortunately don't pass the test, you'd say, oh, that's failure.
yeah.
In game development and in cybersecurity, failures are success.
I
Failures
see.
let you know what you don't know or what didn't work. So learn to fail fast, fail often, and fail forward.
And there's like ways to kind of like a lot of trial and error, so you're able to kind of correct that at some point. I do. I mean, when I was younger, I wanted to go into game development. Obviously, it's not what I ended up doing because I cannot stand to sit at my computer and do trial and error for so long. It just did not sit right with me. Do you have any like? My parents sent me to like, I guess, development like coding camps.
Hmm.
Do you have any like websites or like maybe coding websites that kids can kind of
Yeah.
reach out to?
Hacker Rank.
Hacker Rank?
Hacker Rank is absolutely wonderful. It gives you
Okay.
a great way to be able to not just learn the things that are happening, but to learn them in different languages. And then
Hmm.
they also have different challenges that you can utilize when you are, if you are a developer who's completing college, for instance, or getting ready to go to college, and you want to be able to go into the real world after that. These are the types of challenges that they will actually give you when you are wanting to apply for a software development job. And to say on that, a developer is not just somebody who codes the game or designs the game.
Okay.
You're a developer as well because you're
Okay.
helping to spread the knowledge
Oh
about
my gosh.
what's happening in this
I have
project.
completed my dream, guys. Little Maddie is so excited. I have always wanted to do like development stuff. I mean, I love video games. You had mentioned that you had worked with a bunch of them. So,
Yep.
it's super, super fun. Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Charles. We
you.
appreciate it.
I hope
And
you all have a lot of fun.
yes, we are so excited to see what you guys do. And we hope you complete your mission. We're going to cut to a short break.